There are moments in life that jolt us awake, moments so powerful, so raw, that we can no longer pretend we didn't see what we saw or feel what we felt. These moments are not coincidences. They are divine messages, reminders that something much greater than us is at work. The fire, the chaos, the suffering we witness. It's not just news. It's a spiritual alarm, and when that alarm rings, we must ask ourselves, are we awake? Or are we sleepwalking through the fire? There is a rhythm to the way life speaks to us. At first it's quiet, gentle, like a whisper on the wind. You feel something shift in your spirit, but you brush it off. You see something that doesn't sit right, but you convince yourself it's not your place to question it. You sense a pull to realign your life, but you tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow. Higher power is always communicating, always giving us a chance to recalibrate, always sending us signs through pain, joy, confusion, heartbreak, stillness. But when we repeatedly ignore what we know in our gut is wrong, when we cover our eyes to injustice, close our ears to the cries of the innocent, and silence the voice of our own conscience, we invite a louder awakening. Some people call it wrath, but it's deeper than that. It's alignment. It's the universe restoring balance when we've tipped too far into arrogance, when we've pushed too long against compassion, when we've replaced humility with domination. And that kind of alignment never feels soft. It doesn't come in the form of comfort. It comes like a wildfire through everything false. And when it arrives, it's not just a punishment, it's a revelation. It shows us how long we've been living on borrowed time, grace we never earned, mercy we never acknowledged. This isn't about fear, it's about awakening. It's about realizing that divine signs aren't fairy tales or old traditions meant for ancient people. They're real, they're now, and they're personal. Every tragedy we witness, every moment of suffering that makes us pause, those are doorways into a deeper truth. They're the Creator's way of saying, do you see what I see? Do you feel what I feel? Are you ready to wake up yet? But the danger is thinking we have unlimited time. The danger is believing the whisper will always be gentle, because eventually, we live in a world where it's easy to believe that accountability is optional, where people with power seem to escape the consequences of their action, where cruelty is expected away and injustice is brushed under the rug with a carefully worded statement or a well-timed silence. But deep down, every soul knows there is a law bigger than any courtroom, deeper than any constitution, and more exact than any human judgment. It's the law written into the very fabric of our being, a law that cannot be evaded, bribed, or bypassed. It's the law of divine accountability. We may not see it happen right away. We may watch people lie, steal, oppress, and rise higher in status as if none of it matters. And for a while it can seem like goodness doesn't pay and evil gets rewarded. That illusion is part of the test. That is where faith meets fire, because you can't always see justice in the moment. But that doesn't mean it's not in motion. Just because the scales of the world tilt doesn't mean the scales of the unseen have stopped measuring. Everything is being recorded, not just by the cameras of the world, but by something far more precise. The eye of the soul, the weight of the truth, the memory of the divine. There is no such thing as a hidden act. Not really. You can cover it up from people, yes. You can bury it under distractions, disguise it with charity, mask it with smiles and pretty language, but energy doesn't lie. Truth doesn't die, and the soul, whether you believe it or not, will one day testify. That's not religious guilt, that's spiritual reality. You don't have to subscribe to a doctrine to feel the ache of wrongdoing or the weight of neglect. That's your soul remembering the contract it made before it entered this world. A contract of purpose, of truth, of compassion. And when you betray that contract, no matter how loud the applause, no matter how great the wealth or influence, a debt begins to build, slowly, quietly, but surely. The reason so many people are restless isn't because they're missing something external. It's because they're carrying something internal, something unresolved, something that needs reckoning. And the longer it's avoided, the heavier it becomes. That's what accountability is. It doesn't rush its release. It's the process that clears the fog, that returns you to yourself. But when we deny it, when we think we're above it, when we pretend that time has erased the harm, we actually invite a more painful return. Because that law, that divine law, it doesn't rush, it waits. And when it moves, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock softly. It comes to collect what was always out, with or without our acknowledgement. Fire has a way of showing you things you couldn't see in the calm. It strips away the illusions, the layers we wear to survive, to impress, to hide. When life is comfortable, we convince ourselves that everything is fine, even if deep inside we know it isn't. We bury our doubts under routines. We silence our pain with noise. We build a life that looks good on the outside, but inside it's crumbling. And sometimes the only thing powerful enough to expose that truth is fire. Fire doesn't care about appearances. It doesn't respect titles or achievements. It comes for the foundation. It comes for the truth. That's what makes fire so terrifying and so sacred, because while it burns, it also reveals. It forces you to face what you've avoided. It brings what's hidden into the open. And that's the part most people miss. They see destruction, but they don't see the invitation buried in the ashes. An invitation to rebuild differently. To strip away what was never real and finally stand on what is. You don't really know your faith, your purpose, or your strength until it's been tested by the flame, until life gets hot and painful and uncertain, and you have to decide who you really are when everything you clung to is gone. People often ask why pain is necessary, why we go through such deep loss, or why we're forced to watch suffering on a scale that feels unbearable. But pain isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's the only language strong enough to get our attention. Sometimes it's the only way the soul can rise out of its numbness and remember what it came here to do. Comfort is a beautiful thing, but it can lull us into spiritual sleep. It can make us forget. It can make us lazy with our blessings, careless with our words, numb to the needs of others. But when fire shows up, everything you forgot to care about suddenly becomes clear again. You remember how fragile life is. You remember that the breath you take isn't guaranteed. You remember the people you love and the ones you lost and the dreams you buried. The fire shakes you, wakes you, and sometimes it breaks you, not to destroy you, but to bring you back to something real, to the truth of who you are beneath the masks, to the rawness of your soul, to the voice of your conscience you've been muting for far too long. You don't walk out of the fire the same, and maybe that's the point. Maybe it's not about escaping the flame, but letting it refine you, letting it cut away everything false, so what's left is finally pure, finally honest, finally aligned with something greater than yourself. There's something powerful about a warning. It doesn't always come loud. It doesn't always come with flashing lights or dramatic signs. Sometimes it comes in a quiet moment, a feeling, a shift, a knowing, a message whispered through a conversation, a tragedy on the news, a restless night that won't let you sleep. And when we receive a warning, we often think of it as something harsh or threatening, but in truth, a warning is a mercy. It's grace wrapped in discomfort. It's the Creator giving us a chance to stop, to reflect, to turn around before we step too far into what could destroy us. We often want the world to change around us, but we resist changing what's within us. We want peace without surrender. We want blessings without alignment. And when a warning comes, it shakes that illusion. It's the moment where the divine says, I love you enough to not let you keep going this way. Think about that. To be warned is to be loved. It means you're still being given time, still being given a window to shift the direction of your life, your mindset, your heart. The warning is not rejection. It's an invitation to reconnect with truth before truth forces itself in through the door you refuse to open. But here's where we get tested. Do we listen? Do we pause long enough to ask what needs to change? Or do we rush past it, excuse it, deny it? So many of us are taught to avoid discomfort, to escape anything that feels like a challenge to our comfort zone. But the soul doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in friction, as in the tension between who we are and who we're being called to become. And when a warning enters your life, in whatever form it comes, it's not meant to scare you into submission. It's meant to open your eyes to what your spirit has been trying to say all along. Sometimes that warning is personal, a heartbreak, a loss, a mistake that finally catches up. And sometimes it's collective, a fire, a war, a crisis so big that it pulls you out of your everyday bubble and makes you confront what's really happening in the world. Those moments are sacred. They are not random. They are the Creator's way of calling us back, not just to morality, but to presence, to purpose, to that part of ourselves that remembers what truly matters. And when you see the warning, but feel no urgency, that's when you know the heart has hardened. That's when you know the soul is in danger, because mercy doesn't always look like comfort. Sometimes it looks like exposure. Sometimes it looks like being brought to your knees, not to break you, but to awaken you to the depth of grace that's still available. If only you'd stop running from what's real. There's a dangerous lie we sometimes believe, that we are untouchable, that status, success, money, or intellect can protect us from consequences. That if we're powerful enough, connected enough, clever enough, we can dodge what others face. But life doesn't play by those rules. The soul doesn't answer to earthly systems. And the laws of the unseen, the laws of the divine, don't bend for privilege. What you build on lies will eventually crumble. What you guard with pride will one day be exposed. No one is immune to truth. No one is beyond reach. You can be surrounded by security, but if your heart is not secure in truth, you're vulnerable. You can own everything, but if your soul is empty, you're still starving. You can be praised by the world and still be failing in the places that matter most. Real power isn't in how high you rise, it's in how rooted you are. Because storms don't ask for your resume. Fire doesn't care about your title. And when divine justice arrives, it doesn't make exceptions based on how loud your name echoes in the world. We've been conditioned to worship images, curated lives, flawless presentations, carefully managed reputations. But the Creator isn't interested in image. The truth doesn't care how well you've hidden your flaws, because there's an eye that sees beyond what people applaud, an intelligence that weighs what the world forgets, the kindness that was withheld, the cruelty that was ignored, the injustice that was justified. All of it is seen, all of it matters, all of it is returning, not as punishment, but as balance. We forget that what we send out has a way of circling back, that the energy we put into the world is writing a story we'll have to live in one day. And sometimes that return doesn't come right away. Sometimes it waits, it gives space, it allows time, but eventually it shows up. And when it does, it doesn't ask for your permission. It moves through every layer of defense, every illusion of safety, until what's left is only what's real. It's a hard tooth, but it's also a freeing one, because if no one is untouchable, then no one is unseen either. The same power that holds the arrogant accountable also lifts up the humble. The same force that tears down what was built on corruption also protects what was built with integrity. That's why you don't need to compete with darkness. Just keep standing in your light. You don't need to match power with power. Just stay aligned with truth. What looks like defeat today could be protection tomorrow. What looks like silence now could be preparation for a rise you never saw coming. But you can't fake it. You can't play both sides. You can't honor truth in private but betray it in public. The world may fall for it, but the laws of the unseen are exact. They keep the receipts. They know what's behind the smile, beneath the